dear students! It's a fun-filled day of learning here in Musikasyon. Hatid ng musika ay kaalaman at inspirasyon. This is a place where you are welcome to join me in exploring the interesting history of music and be inspired as we learn and listen to the melodies of the past. This is Teacher Jen, your guide in discovering the wonderful world of 20th century music. In our previous lesson, we were introduced to the first movement, which marked the beginning of the 20th century style of writing music. Can you remember what it is? Correct! We talked about impressionism. As a short recall, let's see if you can choose the right words that describe the features of impressionist music. You have 10 seconds to choose the correct words. These are the choices. Have you picked the right words? If you pick the word color, correct! The use of color or timbre is the most distinctive feature of impressionist music. It is achieved by giving emphasis on orchestration. What other words have you picked? If you pick the word whole tone scale, correct! The whole tone scale was used by Claude Debussy in most of his compositions, where each note is separated from the next by the interval of a whole tone or whole step. Another correct word is atmosphere. Impressionist music focused on mood and atmosphere. The composer's style in creating music merely suggests or evokes something without actually describing it. While Impressionism focused on the real world, another movement, which is Expressionism, emerged in reaction against the Impressionism. Subjects in Expressionism often include fantasy, violence, anxiety, and loss of authenticity and spirituality. How would you describe the feeling of being in quarantine for more than half a year now? What have you been doing? What keeps you entertained? Movies, maybe? Did you know that the music we usually hear in some of the horror or science fiction movies were greatly influenced by the movement Expressionism? The term Expressionism was originally used in visual and literary arts and was first applied to music in 1918. It is considered as a reaction to Impressionism. In this movement, artists created vivid pictures, distorting colors and shapes to make unrealistic images that suggested strong emotions. At the same time, Expressionist composers poured intense emotional expression into their music and explored the subconscious mind. What do we mean by exploring the subconscious mind through music? For you to better understand this, let's go back in time to know the situation when Expressionism took place. Expressionism is a movement that emerged simultaneously in various cities across Germany as a response to a widespread anxiety. It took place before World War I and extended to the period between the two major European wars. So imagine the turmoil brought about by the events during these times. It was one of the reasons why Expressionist artists sought to express psychological experiences and feelings rather than physical facts. Feeling of anger, rage, sorrow, and depression. These feelings were clearly reflected on the musical works of Expressionist composers. How can we tell if a piece of music falls under Expressionism? Listen to the music titled A Survivor from Warsaw, Opus 46 by Arnold Schoenberg, and try to analyze it based on your own feeling about it. A Survivor from Warsaw, Opus 46 is a cantata by Arnold Schoenberg written in 1947 as a tribute to Holocaust victims. What can you say about the music? Is the sound stable or unstable? Clearly, we could say that the sound is unstable. In music, the quality of sounds that seems unstable is called dissonance. Have you ever heard the sound a cat makes when it lands on a piano keyboard? How would you react? That is an example of what dissonance sounds like. And this is one of the features of expressionism. The composers achieved this by writing music whose key characteristics involved dissonant harmonies, so much so that it is often very difficult to identify what key their pieces are in. This is labeled as atonal, music which lacks key or a tonal center. Almost all of the songs that we know today has a key or tonal center, which makes the song very pleasing to the ear. Can you name some songs that for you are pleasing to the ear? Expressionist music, however, is the opposite because of atonality. This is the key characteristic to remember with expressionist music. How about the dynamics or the loudness and softness of the music? Is it consistently soft or consistently loud? Or does it change from time to time? It is very evident that there is an extreme contrast of dynamics in music. There are parts playing from pianissimo to fortissimo, meaning very soft to very loud. Or the other way around, from very loud to very soft. Another feature of expressionist music is the constant changing of textures. Texture in music determines the overall quality of the sound in a piece. And the texture in expressionist music frequently changes throughout the work. How about the melody of the music? Do you think you can just sing along to it? Probably not. It's because expressionism music has distorted melodies and harmonies. The composers experimented with melodies that would reflect their own feelings rather than what is pleasing to the listener. Now let's talk about the composers who played key roles in this movement. Our first composer for expressionism is Arnold Schoenberg. Arnold Schoenberg was born on September 13, 1874 in a working-class suburb of Vienna, Austria. He taught himself music theory but took lessons in counterpoint. Schoenberg's style in music changed from time to time. His tonal preference gradually evolved to something dissonant and atonal as he explored the use of chromatic harmonies. He was responsible for the establishment of the 12-tone system. The 12-tone system is a method of writing music as a means of ensuring that all 12 notes of the chromatic scale sounded as equally with one another while preventing the emphasis of any one note. Arnold Schoenberg's works include the following: Piero Lunaire. Another masterpiece of Schoenberg is Three Pieces for Piano, Opus 11, and Violin Concerto. Although full of melodic and lyrical interest, His music was also extremely complex, creating heavy demands on the listener. Schoenberg died on July 13, 1951 in Los Angeles, California, USA, where he had settled since 1934. Another important expressionist composer is Igor Stravinsky. Born in Russia on June 17, 1882, in his first notable composition, The Firebird Suite, his skillful handling of material and rhythmic inventiveness went beyond anything written by his Russian predecessors. He added a new ingredient to his nationalistic musical style. Stravinsky wrote approximately 127 pieces, including concerti, orchestral music, instrumental music, operas, ballets, solo, vocal, and choral music. He died in New York City on April 6, 1971. The works of these composers may seem unconventional, but they have inspired a lot of succeeding musicians to explore new ways of writing music. Now that you know about the music of Impressionism and Expressionism, let's see how familiar you are with these first two contrasting styles of the 20th century. Identify if what is being described is Impressionism or Expressionism. Number 1. It is a movement that centered on nature and its beauty, abandoning the Romantic movement. The correct answer is Impressionism. Number 2. Music of this movement has a high level of dissonance. The correct answer is Expressionism. Number 3. Composers of this movement poured intense emotional expression into their music and explored the subconscious mind. Expressionism is the correct answer. Number 4. Music of this movement had a mysterious atmosphere. The answer is Impressionism. Lastly, the key characteristic feature of this movement is atonality or lack of central key. The correct answer is Expressionism. Let's have a recap of what we have discussed today. Remember that Expressionism in music centered on emotional expression rather than depicting reality. Expressionist music often features a high level of dissonance, extreme contrast of dynamics, constant changing of textures, and distorted melodies and harmonies. Arnold Schoenberg established the 12-tone system in writing music. Igor Stravinsky was known for adding new techniques in his music. The movement Expressionism did not last in especially long time and started to fade out as its artists and writers aged. Did you know that Expressionism has been described as a movement of young people? It was a time when artists bravely experimented with arts and music as their way of expressing themselves. As a youth, how are you expressing yourself? Your feelings? Do you have a special skill or talent? The most important question is, are you sharing it to others? Remember that you are unique and gifted with talents and abilities. You have to discover them, and just like the expressionist composers, don't be afraid to show it and share it to the world, because you'll never know, you could also be an inspiration to others as well. And that concludes our lesson for today. I hope you had fun while learning. Brace yourselves, because in our next lesson, we are going back in time again, where we can now dance to the groove of new styles of music that emerged during the 20th century. You'll find out more about it in our next episode, so stay tuned. Once again, This is Teacher Jen, your guide in discovering the wonderful world of 20th century music.